Hello and welcome back to Over the Board Chess. And we are actually returning with a huge game. A game between Magnus CARLSEN, the world champion, and the youngster Alireza FIROUZJA. If you remember the last time these guys played, that actually happened in Norway about 4 months ago. That was this very critical game where Alireza had a drawing pawn ending and made a huge blunder and lost it. So obviously now FIROUZJA is very much heated to fight back. Yeah, and one more thing, if you actually don't know what Over the Board Chess is, this is actually the variant of the online chess where players are actually playing this as a board game. So they are like sitting in front of each other. So there's actually a photo. So this is how you have to imagine if you've never seen such things. So thankfully this is actually happening, and they are playing the tournament of Wijk, which is known to be the sort of the Wimbledon of chess, this huge tournament in the Netherlands. So let's go to the game, because this is a super interesting and really very exciting chess game where CARLSEN pretty much goes for the throat of Alireza at all costs. So let's see what happens. So Magnus is with the white pieces, starts with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, so far pretty standard, d5, knight c3, and here actually Alireza's main repertoire used to be the Ragozin with bishop b4, but of course these days that there are essentially no tournaments, it provides some time to go on with other opening preparations, and FIROUZJA played the move knight d7. So one more thing is that unfortunately the broadcast or the transmission of moves and time didn't quite work during this first day, so we don't really know how much time players actually spent on the moves, because here I will show that the opening is actually quite strange. So here CARLSEN continues with bishop g5, which is really not the most popular move, but it of course exists. So players usually play bishop f4 more often, or c takes d5 to get this classical queen's gambit decline with this so-called Carlsbad structure. But what happens in the game is a different move order. CARLSEN starts out with bishop g5, now comes h6, bishop h4, bishop e7, and CARLSEN actually takes on d5 at this point. And well, this is actually pretty much known that it's not particularly good for white, because in this position black can simply just take with the knight. So previously black was taking with the pawn, taking with the pawn, but now black just takes with the knight, and actually now many pieces are going to come up from the board. So takes e4, and there's one more minor piece exchanged. And after castle, bishop d3, c5 castle, takes, we actually get this so-called Tarrasch variation. So the Tarrasch would actually arise if, let's go back a little bit. So if in this position black actually plays the move c5, and then we can get some positions like this. So takes, this is like Tarrasch mainline, and we will see how we end up in pretty similar positions. Bishop b4 check, and also these bishops are coming off the board. So this is pretty similar to what we will have here after this move. However, black is actually up more or less a tempi with this h6, and yeah, this is actually just supposed to be equal. So now comes b6, very natural move to develop your bishop, and white's only plan is really just to push this a pawn and try to get some sort of weaknesses on the queen side. Comes bishop b7, a5, and Alireza chooses basically the best reply here. Doesn't really want to bother with this potential a6 or whatever. He just simply takes an a5 and knows that this a7 pawn is not going to be a huge weakness. So now comes the exchange, and after knight f6 we can immediately see that the black counterplays against the center, and this e4 pawn is already hanging. So now comes rook e1, the other rook comes into play, very nice move putting pressure against this d4 pawn. So the knight is actually very unlikely to jump into e5, because it has to guard this pawn on d4. Now comes queen a1, threatening this pawn, but here comes a very nice defense from Alireza. He plays the move queen c7, and so seemingly this pawn is hanging, but there are multiple ways that actually black can fight back if if white takes. So the simplest one is to just take back. Now comes rook e8. This queen is actually almost trapped. The only move is queen c5. And the simplest way to deliver a draw for black is just to exchange, play the move rook a3. Now it attacks this bishop, and wherever this bishop goes, there comes rook c3, eating up this pawn, and it's obviously a completely drawish ending. So for that reason, CARLSEN could not take on a7, I mean if he doesn't want to draw, so he just played the move h3, but now also Alireza can just protect his pawn with a6. Here comes rook c5, and here comes a very usual move. So white has this very beautiful center d4, e4, but this also means that the squares next to these pawns, so c4 and f4, are actually quite weak. And black can just penetrate with the queen immediately to f4. And the point is that now this e4 pawn is also hanging. And CARLSEN played the move rook e5, but Alireza can just chase this rook away. After rook e5, knight f6. So after knight f6, actually CARLSEN has to decide what to do with this game. So he could just repeat and then basically take a draw with the white pieces in a very short game. Or the only other way that he can meaningfully continue the game is via pawn sacrifice. And here comes a very typical pawn sacrifice actually. So it seems like you are supposed to sacrifice this e4 pawn, but what you are really going to sacrifice is your d4 pawn. So if you feel like you can stop the video here and try to figure out what's this, it's actually quite common way to try to continue with white, and especially to try to get the initiative in the center, but more or less on the king side. So the move here is d5, and the plan is that after you take on d5, white can finally advance with e5. So if you, in this position, if you decide to play e5, well, apart from the obvious thing that this f3 knight is actually hanging, the problem with this move is that the black knight is going to jump into d5, and this knight is just amazing. I mean, theoretically now you just lost your king after rook e4, but so this is the usual way that, so here you have to take on f3, but the usual reason is this. So you push d5 first, so that this actually the black pawn, so his own pawn, is going to take this d5 square from the black knight. And after e5, the knight cannot go to d5. Probably the best move here would be capturing your own pawn on d5 and have a beautiful knight on the central square, but this is not allowed according to the current regulations. So now black jumps into knight e4, and here CARLSEN centralizes his queen with queen d4. So what white like to do in this position is somehow basically remove this knight of his, push the move f3, opening up all these diagonals and also the e-file, likely push some e6 and try to checkmate the black king. Well, this is quite a long-term thing, and at the moment black is doing just completely fine. So here Alireza comes with the move rook c8, going for this open line, leaving this rook behind the pawn to protect, and if actually white removes this rook, which happens, so now rook c5 is a threat, so white comes back, black can actually start pushing this pawn. Here comes rook b1, bishop c6, also actually bishop a6 is a very natural move, trying to remove the pieces, but then you're basically giving up this pawn. But the position is still approximately equal, but Alireza did want to hang on to his pawn for the time being. So comes bishop c6, and here CARLSEN continues with his plan. He really wants to go after Alireza, and he sacrifices another pawn with e6. So here, well, black has to take, of course, and now the white knight can jump into e5. So that's the whole point of this sacrifice, that the white knight can jump in. Here comes a very nice defense by Alireza, plays the move queen f6, pinning along this diagonal the queen and the knight. Now CARLSEN removes this very strong knight from e4, comes knight g5 and rook b6. So watch out for this rook taking control of the 6 rank, and potentially some f4 and f5 could come, where the black queen would be a bit exposed, because you can never take here, because your queen is hanging. Sorry, I had to do this already. So the queen is hanging. So now comes bishop e8, and CARLSEN gets out of this pin. So black's next move is likely knight f7, trying to exploit this pin. So CARLSEN removes his knight, his queen from the pin. So here Alireza actually doesn't continue with the best move. He plays the move a4, which is actually very logical. You want to push this one down the board. And it would have been better to try to set up some defense along the queen side, something like knight f7 probably. So, but that's not what happened. So a4, and here comes knight g4. And the point that Alireza likely blunder is that after queen takes d8, there's a very strong move now from white side. So you can stop the video here and try to figure out what the move is. So the thing is that white pieces are actually super active, and basically all the white pieces, all the 5 pieces, are looking to attack this king. And now it's time to actually break through. And the move is rook takes e6. And well, again, as I mentioned before, so there was some issue with the transmission, and we actually don't know how much time players had at this point, but I believe that they most were in a smaller or bigger time trouble for sure. So here comes knight takes e6, which is probably not the best idea, but it's still actually possible to hang on to the game afterwards, but you have to you have to defend very precisely. So after queen takes e6, there is only one move left that black could make. So now you are in check, and actually, so you can go here, here, or play bishop f7. There's only one move that actually leads to survival. So 2 moves are actually just checkmate on the spot, basically, and there is one move that lets black defend further. So here the best move is king h8, and the point is that now white's idea is to just crash through with knight takes h6, but here black has one more way to defend. The only move is bishop h5, and the game is not yet completely over. I will show what happens if black takes the pawn. That's similar to the game where black just gets checkmated. So here the game goes on. It's still incredibly complicated. White still has this huge attack. But unfortunately for Alireza, he played the move bishop f7, and this is just a checkmate on the spot. So here you can stop the video again, but I think I already spoiled the idea. But if you want to calculate it yourself, then go for it and stop the video. So here the move is, as I basically told you before, knight takes h6. You absolutely have to take because the bishop is under attack. And after takes, despite the whole rook that Alireza is up by, he is just getting checkmated. There is not enough defender. The 3 white pieces, this beautiful queen, the very strong bishop, and the rook cutting away from the king's escape e-file. There is nothing black can do here. It's over. It's checkmate. Well, he played one more move, queen c7, but this is just mid on the spot. Check, 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 check. Comes back, and that's it. If you play queen g7, then queen d6 here, and queen e7 is checkmate. If you go here, then well, it also obviously has to be checkmate. But one move is just to play this check, king f6. And after bishop h5, you have to come up, and here, for example, g4 is made, but maybe other moves are also made. So yeah, that's basically it. And it was a very exciting game where CARLSEN just went after the king of Alireza, and with this move rook takes e6, which is a very strong move, but it's not yet completely winning if Alireza defends well. In the time trouble, that was too much for this youngster, and yeah, he just got checkmated by the champion. It pretty much happens to essentially everyone, so shouldn't be that ashamed of it. But it's a pity that he played a very nice game, but at the end CARLSEN's sort of excessive risk-taking just paid off. Yeah, so this is about this game, and yeah, so now this was the first round. Some over the board chess is finally back, so we should be all very happy about that. Actually, so Wijk is a very huge tournament with all sort of invitational tournaments, so not just this very top level of the Masters, but also there are usually the 2 or 3 other groups that are invitational, and there's a huge open tournament. Obviously, this is not taking place this year. So, well, actually, all the other games are still, as far as I know, are still ongoing. But this is sure that Carlsen is going to be the leader after one round. And then see you in the next days when I continue the coverage of the Wimbledon of chess.